G'day everyone, I hope that you're all doing rather well because today we are going to be talking about a game series called Robot Warfare. Sorry, I meant Robots Warfare. Now I know, mobile games, especially the Transformers kind, can be a very heated topic, but I want to talk to you about a small series of fan games called Robots Warfare by Kwungames or Kwungames. These games are all mostly simplistic run and gun levels featuring a multitude of Transformers across each of their different series. These games are all short side scrollers that have you play as a single character from each franchise for approximately 12 levels. These games span from Robots Warfare all the way to Robots Warfare X, meaning that we have a lot of games to cover here. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into the original Robots Warfare. Alright, the first game takes place from the original Transformers movie from 1986, taken directly from the perspective of Hot Rod, where we see him just after he spots the Decepticons approaching in the Autobot shuttle. Ultra Magnus warns you that the city is under attack and that you must make your way back to the city immediately, and that there will be plenty of enemies in your way. As you traverse the open land, you are met with photons, purple seekers, and shrapnels who wield impenetrable shields. All these enemies take 3 hits to destroy, but you must be wary as they have significant knockback, which makes it very easy for you to be knocked off platforms. It must be noted that this game is by no means easy, as falling off the cliff or taking too much damage forces you to restart the level over again. There are no checkpoints except for the ones just before the boss stages. Speaking of bosses, the first one we encounter is none other than Blitzwing. Now, Blitzwing is tough, mostly because it took me a lot of tries before I could actually understand his mechanics. So, Blitzwing will occasionally shoot at you with his rifle until he is hit with one of your bullets, forcing him to charge at you. To avoid this attack, you have to jump over him or be far enough away for him not to reach you. Once you understand that he attacks after he is hit, then it becomes easier to predict his movements. Still a tough fight though. Once beaten, Cup then praises you for a job well done before diving headfirst into another one of his stories. Now, I have only just described to you one level. The next levels are all very similar as they slowly retell the story of the movie, as we next face up against Starscream. In this section, we are introduced to the power shot, which requires a full power bar to fire. This can destroy projectiles and some barriers in its path. We also meet Bombshell, who simply walks around with a shield like shrapnel. When we eventually meet Starscream, it's in that part of Autobot City where he gets his foot stuck. In this level, Starscream will shoot at you, but once he is hit, he will fly into the air before descending, lobbing a line of projectiles that you must maneuver between. This fight I found to be a lot longer than many of the other ones in this list, requiring you to hit him a multitude of times before he is defeated, unless you use the power shot. Defeating Starscream, we now make our way to the communications tower to confront Soundwave so that we can call reinforcements in. This level has you navigate flying platforms up the level, defeating enemies until you reach the top. Here we meet Kickbacks, who fly above you and will shoot directly down at the player. When you eventually climb your way up to Soundwave, he will begin to shoot sonic waves at you, which require you to either use your power shot or to jump over them. Throughout the fight, he will begin to deploy either Laserbeak or Ravage, with Laserbeak flying above you to prevent you from jumping, while Ravage will come at you from behind and run along the ground, forcing you to either shoot or jump over him, making the combo for Soundwave particularly tricky to deal with. Mission 4 begins to show its creativity with Hot Rod running through Autobot City to confront the all-powerful Devastator. You even see Wheeljack's corpse at the start of the level, and unfortunately, just like in the movie, there is nothing we can do to save him. Here, there are no new enemies, but a power-up that changes Hot Rod's power shot into a buzzsaw uppercut, destroying crumbling blocks and enemies that are above you. When you finally meet Devastator, he is beginning to break down the wall into Autobot City. Devastator will rain missiles on you, and the only way to deal damage is to use the newly acquired uppercut to hit him in the head. Doing so will have him fire his eye lasers that you must jump over to avoid being hit, and they can come from either side. You eventually defeat Devastator by destroying his head, which is pretty brutal, but does suit the other deaths that have occurred throughout the original movie. Now we get to have our showdown with Megatron, where you must make your way around the level through hordes of Insecticons and Seekers. Also, we see Windcharger dead in the final part of the level, and again we unfortunately cannot interact with them. Once you make your way to Megatron, you are in for a fight. Megatron is immune to regular projectiles, so you must use your power shots to hit him. Instead of standing and shooting, Megatron will continuously charge at Hot Rod, being invincible and knocking you around the screen in the process. It is imperative that you keep your distance and to keep jumping, as you cannot outrun his attacks. If you do hit him, he may use his fusion cannon, which can only be jumped over to avoid damage. Megatron is a tough boss, but he certainly isn't unstoppable. Following Megatron's defeat, the mission now changes, where you must find all 5 Dinobots before exiting the level, mimicking that of the movie. Here, the sweeps can be seen joining the battle, shooting 2 bullets at a time and alternating between regular straight shots and jumping diagonal shots, depending on Hot Rod's location. This level is also pretty cool, as you are able to jump over the 2 escape shuttles used by the Autobots in the movie. At the end of this mission, you are confronted with Scourge. In this fight, Scourge shoots power shots at you until he is hit, which, like Starscream, has him take off into the air and shooting at you on his descent. Shortly after, the Autobots are still being pursued, and Hot Rod must jump from sweep to reach the Honourable Cyclonus. This fight, like others, involves Cyclonus firing power shots, and when he is hit, he will jump into the air and dive kick forward towards your last position. By running underneath him, you can easily dodge all of his attacks. Following that, we enter a very unexpected location, with the Autobots crash landing on the planet Quintessa. There you come across many of its local Sharkticons, who take 4 hits instead of the usual 3, allowing them to even survive a power shot. There are also fun mini-boss segments with an Alicon who continuously charges towards you, and is completely invincible while he's attacking. After this, you then encounter a Quintesson Bailiff, who leaps into the air to strike you down. The final creature you must conquer is the Sea Squid Monster. This boss is very unique in comparison to the previous bosses, as Hot Rod must jump between platforms while dodging tentacles as it switches from side to side. Although the tentacles don't do much damage, you don't want to be hit, as it can very easily catapult you off the platform, which is an instant death. With the Sea Squid defeated, we must fight our way through the Quintesson courtrooms, fighting against more of the locals of Quintessa, including a Quintesson flamethrower. This level also introduces wall lasers, shield generators, and the new ground wave ability, which shoots a spark of energy across the ground until it hits a wall or enemy. This ability is required to destroy cracked blocks in the ground to descend into lower levels. Once you make your way to the end of the level, you are confronted by a Quintesson prosecutor, who will not attack you, instead watching from above while sending hordes of Sharkticons to finish you off. Thankfully, the Sharkticons here are weaker, so they only need 1 power shot to destroy them, but it's easy to be overwhelmed and then get caught in between a few Sharkticons, causing you to lose a lot of health. Surviving our prosecution, your goal is to save all the captives caught in their clutches, including Cup, Grimlock, Kranix, this guy, and Wheelie. But it is not so easy, as you have to destroy the colour-related shield generators to unlock a gate of that same colour. Once all are rescued, it's time to confront the Quintesson Judge. This fight is the exact same as the Prosecutor fight, however, when the Judge is hit, he may spawn a Bailiff amongst the Sharkticons that are already fighting you, so you have to take them out quick so that they don't overwhelm you. Now having returned to Cybertron, the looming presence of Unicron is clear, so the Autobots must make their way to the Chaos Bringer, fighting your way through every enemy you've met so far. Finally, up close and personal with Unicron, Hot Rod must shoot the jewel in Unicron's head while he plays deadly peekaboo with you. You have to watch out for his giant hands and the bailiffs that he spawns, although the bailiff can be destroyed in Unicron's rampage. This fight is a bit more difficult, not because the hands are difficult to dodge, but because the jewel is in an odd spot that can only be hit while jumping or when Unicron moves his head up or down. With Unicron now temporarily defeated, you now traverse into his body to seek out the all-powerful tyrant Galvatron. But first, you must rescue Spike, Dan, Jazz, Cliffjumper, and Bumblebee by destroying the coloured generators like in Quintessa, using all your abilities in the process. Finally, we have a one-on-one with the Great Galvatron. Like Megatron's fight, he alternates between power shots, dashes, and his fusion cannon attacks. One thing to note is that the music used in this final battle truly is a bop. So, with Galvatron defeated, we see the end of the original movie retold in panels as Hot Rod lights our darkest hour and finally becomes Rodimus Prime. RC then congratulates you for ending the Great Robot War and bringing peace and happiness back to the universe. But this game goes to show that Hot Rod isn't the useless Autobot everyone claims he is, as he has single-handedly saved the universe. Alright, now we enter the sequel, Robots Warfare 2, as we switch from Hot Rod to Ultra Magnus, who must fight his way through the many battles of Season 3. So, we begin with him investigating a recent explosion in the city. Here, we see that the movements of the characters and the backgrounds look a little bit cleaner than the first game. The enemies here are similar, with the main cast involving Sharkticons, Sweeps, and the Bailiffs. So, after Ultra Magnus makes his way through the city, he finds that the source of these explosions is from the leader of the Terracons, Hunger. Hunger will shoot at you, and once struck, he will leap into the air and become intangible until after he lands. I find the best way to avoid his attacks is to spam him and then quickly run underneath his leap before he lands again. Springer will then congratulate you for a job well done before moving on to Mission 2. As it turns out, Hunger was only bait to lure you away so that Decepticons can attack your real base. This is a lot of the same but with a lot more platforms to jump between, as well as reacquiring your Power Shot, which is still one of the best moves in all the games. You then confront the Battle Chargers, Run Amok and Runabout. This is a cool battle as you tackle the duo as they shoot, leap and dash around, forcing you to jump between them or shoot both of them at the same time to trigger their attacks simultaneously. Both of them will continue to attack until their health bar hits 0, so there is no point in singling one of the two out to attack. Next, we return to our task type missions, with Rodimus asking us to locate and recharge the 5 generators in the level to recharge our defense systems. This level has so many platforms to climb around with, and then when we get to the top, we meet Razor Claw in front of a cool design of Metroplex. Razor Claw is immune to your bullets, so you have to rely on your Power Shot. Like other bosses, he will charge at you, and once hit, will leap into the air and strike his sword onto the ground, shooting sparks in front of him when he lands. Overall, a cool fight. Having now defended the base, the Autobots now go on the offense as they attempt to reach Trypticon before he has a chance to destroy the Ark. Travelling across dangerous terrain, it is very easy to meet a fiery end, as you can get knocked off your platform by a stray bullet or a simple misclick. When you finally catch up to this stubby dino, you see how terrifying he truly is. With his weak point being his head, you have to ride a platform to shoot at him properly. But Trypticon will shoot lasers at you and punch you while on the ground, so timing your ascent is critical here. With Trypticon defeated, we now have to rescue our 3 comrades, Bumblebee, Cup and Wheelie. In this, we get access to a new ability, the Dash. The Dash is a cool move that allows you to charge forward and allows you to destroy lasers and shielded enemies. We also meet a new Decepticon, Overkill, who leaps into the air to stomp you out of existence. It must be noted that it requires 2 Power Shots or 1 Dash to take down each Overkill. After rescuing everyone, we get tag teamed by Pounce and Wingspan. These clones will attack by shooting and leaping into the air when they get hit, throwing a grenade at you when they land. The dash ability is very useful here as it allows you to quickly dash under and over the clones. Unfortunately, there is no way to tell which clone is which because neither of them can transform. After our battle in the Clone Wars, Ultra Magnus must escape the enemy's base or else. In this level, the dash remains prevalent, allowing you to dive headfirst into any unwary Decepticon, including the newly introduced Rat Bats who will swoop past you in an attempt to catch you off guard. Having escaped, there is only one Decepticon left in your way, Abominus. This rage-filled combiner will punch and stomp you to pieces, causing explosions with each step he takes. Thankfully, he is not too fast, so if you time it right, you can strafe around Abominus before he squishes you in a corner. Mission 7 has us chasing down Octane, who is looking to deliver 5 new cannons for the Decepticon cause. Here, Ultra Magnus boards a cargo train and finds a new shield power-up, which can deflect cannon missiles and stop normal bullets. However, it is ineffective against grenades and only lasts a few seconds. Having reached the front of the train, we see that Octane has tapped into the cannon's mixture, firing his own version of the bullets, requiring you to deflect them back at him. Doing so will make him fly kick you, but it is pretty easy to avoid. Having derailed this train, Rodimus informs us that we are now stranded in the desert, but we are not alone. As we make our way through the desert, Predaking has arrived to hunt us down. Predaking will ascend into the sky and descend in a random position, sending a fiery shockwave towards you. You must use your power shot while jumping to get the most amount of hits in. From the desert, Rodimus informs us of an ally with enemy intel who is hiding somewhere on the moon. That being Sandstorm. But getting to him will be tricky, as the sweeps now have turrets that fire double the bullets and have a lot more health. After helping Sandstorm, Ultra Magnus is confronted with Scourge, who, as Springer notes, we have seen before. If you've seen the first fight with Scourge, then this one is pretty similar, as he can only be damaged with power shots and can now charge at you. A slightly tricky boss so long as you keep your distance. Following Scourge's defeat, we infiltrate the Decepticon base to destroy all of the new cannons that have been installed. After destroying them all, we find that the boss is none other than Cyclonus, where you must deflect his shot back at him like the previous bosses. However, when struck, he will either send a hail of missiles to rain from the sky, or he will try to kick you in the face. Having defeated Cyclonus, we head back to the surface of Cybertron as we can see the head of Unicron still orbiting the planet. Here you have a couple of overkill mini-bosses before you face the big, bad Megatron.
You mean Galvatron?
Sorry, I meant Galvatron. Still equipped with your deflector shield, your goal is to simply reflect Galvatron's shots back at him. The only problem being is that he is quite aggressive in comparison to his subordinates, and once defeated, there is only one more bot standing in your way. So you would think Galvatron would be it, but there is one boss left, and that is none other than Sixshot, who is hiding in the core of Cybertron. This last level is quite a maze and requires you to defeat the horde of Decepticons, Quintessons, and turrets until you reach the core. Sixshot is not to be underestimated, as he can fly into the air and descend upon you in one of 4 locations, causing a shockwave when he lands. Overall, this fight is quite a challenge, as he can quickly fill the screen with projectiles that can be difficult to avoid even with the power shot. At the end of it all, Rodimus shakes hands with Ultra Magnus as Nova Prime declares that he will destroy all. Robots Warfare 3 is a rather interesting game, mostly because up until recently I never knew it existed, since it was removed from the Google Play Store when I first started looking into this series. So unfortunately, it is the one game that I cannot play, but thankfully some people have uploaded their playthroughs onto YouTube, so not all is lost. This game takes place in the first seasons of G1 and before the events of Robots Warfare 1 and 2. Initially, you could play the game as Jetfire, however it seems like it was updated and changed to play as Optimus instead. Regardless, the game is basically the same as before, so let's just jump straight into the main bosses. We first begin on Cybertron, with the first boss that we encounter being an ancient headless guardian, which will repeatedly charge at you. This forces you to dump as much ammo as you can into him between each charge to put him down. Taking him down, we then go on a rescue mission to retrieve Trailbreaker, Jazz and Prowl, before we have a showdown with Shockwave the Hedgehog. Need I say more? Now attempting to leave Cybertron on the Ark, Optimus is pursued by none other than Thundercracker, who will leap into the air, hurling a grenade at you each time he is hit. Having defeated Thundercracker, they then crash land on Earth, and as the Autobots begin to familiarise themselves on this new planet, Roadbuster spots Soundwave spying on them. This fight is not as good as the original Soundwave fight, with instead of summoning his cassettes, he instead just leaps up into the air and lands in a random location. The next level has us rescuing Sparkplug, Spike and Chip from the hands of Skywarp. In this fight, Skywarp will shoot at you, and then once he is hit, he will teleport up to you in an attempt to surprise you and catch you off guard. The Autobots then head out to the North Pole and discover the great Autobot Jetfire, who is confused on whose side to fight for, just like in the show. Jetfire will shoot power shots at you before flying into the sky in an attempt to squash you when he lands. After convincing Jetfire to join the Autobots, We head to a facility to destroy some generators before being confronted by Starscream. Starscream is upset about Jetfire leaving his side and will fight you by flying into the air and descending down, firing a line of projectiles at you, just like in his original fight. We then head into a construction site that Grimlock has fled to. When we do catch up with him, he challenges Optimus Prime to a challenge for their leadership. In this fight, Grimlock will shoot blasts from his sword and then leap into the air to strike you with his sword once he is hit. Throughout the next few levels, we encounter some Squawk Talks and Beast Boxes, and then, for each of the next 3 levels, we encounter one of the renegade Insecticons that never hit the G1 screens. The first one we encounter is Ransack, who hovers above the arena and fires down on you, which forces you to attack him with the uppercut ability that you found earlier in the level. Defeating Ransack, we then face Chop Shop, who is pretty cool as he alternates between jumping attacks and spin attacks, forcing you to be on your toes throughout the entire fight. Finally, we come face to face with Venom on a secret base on the moon. Venom warns you of a legendary robot that the Decepticons are trying to revive, and he will not let you stop him. In this fight, Venom will take to the skies and try to land in your last position, but when he lands, he will send out a shockwave either side of him in an attempt to knock you out. Making it to the last level, we have to rescue Topspin and Twin Twist before confronting Megatron in front of a tank withholding Nova Prime. Megatron will alternate between power shots, charges and fusion cannon attacks, and when we eventually defeat him, the base begins to collapse, forcing both sides to retreat from the moon. However, we see that Nova Prime has been awakened, hence the ending that we saw at the end of Robots Warfare 2. Unfortunately though, the later games do not involve Nova Prime, which is a shame because it would have been really cool to battle it out with him. Now we move into the Headmasters universe, where we play as none other than Jinrai in Robots Warfare 4. But not just any Jinrai, God Jinrai. Minerva and God Bomber greet you and inform Jinrai that an enemy is hijacking a cargo train of high-tech weapons that must be stopped. You have all the same weapons as before, fighting against various Seacons. After all are defeated, it comes down to you and Gilmer. Gilmer simply fires shots at you and then will either charge or leap into the air, causing an explosion behind him. Real simple. After defeating Gilmer, the next stage has you chasing down Buster, who is guarding the stolen energy supply. To get there, you must infiltrate the base and retrieve his super shot to collect all the energy while taking care of the new Sea-Wing Seacons. Buster shoots super shots at you and can only be damaged with supers. He will also jump and spray bullets at you when damaged. We finally get a bit of a shake-up in the third stage, where Jinrai takes to the sky and must be moved either up or down to shoot at incoming flying enemies. All of the previous Seacons and Destrons are here to take you out before you face the powerful pretender Doros. He too can fly and shoots a volley of shots while being protected by a shield that can stop your bullets. Having now invaded the city, Jinrai stands alone on a moving platform and must destroy as many Seacons as he can before they overwhelm him. At the end of it, the great Turtler comes to face you. He will dash and jump into the air to attack you and will only be affected by your power shots, just like those before him. Following this, we then enter enemy territory as Jinrai must rescue his comrades Metalhawk, Diver and Lander, before being confronted by Blood, who is able to shoot power shots, leap great distances and fly while shooting backwards. The next stage has the Destrons change plans once again to move a giant asteroid into the Earth. Once there, we find out that the one behind it all is none other than Hydra, who shoots a combination of power shots and missiles. These are some pretty tricky missiles though, as they can randomly change direction up to 3 times, making tracking them to be rather difficult. Mission 7 then has us infiltrate a secret base in Saturn, in which God Jinrai is able to achieve a new power, the Fly Kick, which is able to deal significant damage and can destroy laser walls. Once all 4 power cores are found, we then face a mighty foe, the great King Poseidon. King Poseidon can only be damaged with your kick if he isn't currently attacking. He will also send a wall of flames from his sword, lob bombs, and leap into the air. Very tough fight though. So, after defeating King Poseidon, we enter another elevator battle until we meet the mysterious Autobot Double Clouder. In this form, Clouder is able to shoot crouch shots that must be jumped over and can only be damaged with your kicks. He will then either jump towards you, dropping bombs where he lands, or he'll leap back, shooting at you in retaliation. After his defeat, we then have another flying mini-game. Here, he is confronted by Double Clouder's Decepticon form. In this form, he begins by shooting bombs that explode into 2 smaller projectiles when hit, and then once we get him down to half health, he switches to the directional missiles that alter at random. Now, what I found interesting was that after you defeat Double Clouder again, Minerva then pops up to inform you that you have completed the game, except there's more, because obviously there was an update to it. This one is to thwart Overlord's plan to destroy the Earth with a super weapon. To do so, you must clear the area and then confront Overlord, who is going to deal with you personally. Overlord is invincible and will slowly move his way toward you and release a devastating burst of energy. Only after he has become exhausted can you actually damage him, and once you do, he will either perform a charge or shoot 2 consecutive power shots at you, which you must dodge. Moving on, Jinrai infiltrates the Decepticon base and must destroy all 5 power cores to put a stop to that super weapon. Here, you are able to obtain the last power-up, being a plasma bomb shot from Jinrai's cannon that can destroy enemies and destructive blocks in the floor. Once he shuts down the weapon, he has 1 more adversary to face down, Black Zarek. Black Zarek attacks fast and will fire a wall of fast flames at you, and can only be damaged by hitting him in the head with the new cannon upgrade when he is not attacking you. Once hit, he will either try to poke you with his spear or try to squish you under his feet. This one in particular I found very difficult, as when he jumps too high, he might hit the edge of the screen and just drop directly on you. Overall, he has been the hardest boss so far, but still quite an enjoyable one. With the Earth now saved from Devil Z, Jinrai's last mission is to clean up any remaining Decepticons in the area. However, we find out that defeating Overlord may not have been a smart idea, because Tarn is here to hunt him down, and you have now become his new target. Like Overlord, Tarn is invincible and can only be damaged once he is exhausted. However, this is not as easy as it sounds, as he can shoot a wave of energy across the ground, explode into bursts of energy, shoot while jumping, and can fire a laser from his fusion cannons. After his defeat, our story finally ends, with Tarn receiving a message that his target is nearby, and leaves you to hunt down Overlord. Now we get to jump into Robots Warfare 5, as we enter the Victory series and take control of the one and only Starsaber in his mission against the forces of Deathsaurus. Here, you primarily face against the Dinosaur Force and the Breast Force, and your first boss is none other than Leozak. Leozak shoots regular and crouch shots and jumps around when he's hit. To be honest, it's one of the better versions of the first bosses we've had so far. After we defeat Leozak, Starsaber is now on the hunt for energy. However, Blue Bacchus is here to claim some of it for himself. Blue Bacchus is simple, as he can only be affected by power shots, and he'll just jump back and forth shooting at you whenever he's hit. In the third stage now, you take to the skies once again, but instead of transforming into your jet, Starsaber rides the V-Star, shooting anything in his way. Be wary though, as your hitbox is solely on Starsaber and does not include the V-Star. After your flight, you are greeted by Great Shot, who, fun fact, I've just realised is meant to be Six Shot. Great Shot will alternate between power shots and twin shots, so it is best to use your power shot and try to dodge as much as you can. By the fourth stage, we now have a survival mission, which requires Starsaber to survive as long as he can on an elevator. Reaching the bottom, you meet the other cross-former, Black Shadow. Black Shadow has the unique ability to turn invisible and sneak behind you for a surprise attack. However, If you trick him, he may choose to charge at you instead, so always be ready to jump. After defeating the thief, Starsaber must rescue Blacker, Braver and Laster from captivity using the new Sword Dash ability. And at the end of it all, the great combiner Dino King has come to challenge you. Dino King will dash at you with his axe, and when he is hit with your sword, he will leap through the air to strike you down. Taking to the skies once again, we make our journey to the moon, where we find the currently berserk Victory Leo in our way. Leo, like Great Shot, will fire a volley of twin shots and rockets, which can quickly fill up the screen with projectiles. Also, like the previous Robot Warfare, don't try and guess the path of the rockets because they are very unpredictable. Now stuck on the moon, we must battle our way forward while the V-Star is under repairs. However, before you can depart, Lio Kaiser is formed and is ready to rumble. Lio Kaiser will shoot 2 shots at head height and then either walk menacingly towards you or leap into the air to crush you when he is struck. Moving on, we then descend down a lift in the moon until we trip the alarm and eventually face the 7th Breast Force member, Death Cobra, who finally gets to take the stage. Death Cobra shoots only crouch shots and will either try to take you out with his flamethrower or leap vertically out of the road. Finally, with one more flight, we have Deathsaurus. Wait. Actually, no, sorry. It's Blue Bacchus and Black Shadow here to get their revenge. Black Shadow will fire directional missiles and Bacchus will shoot bombs that split in 2 when hit. So you have to be very careful at where you aim in this one. And then that is it for Robots Warfare 5, as Holly and Jan state that there will be updates and missions soon, which I'm afraid to say unfortunately will never debut, which is a shame as I can guess that there would be a Deathsaurus fight, maybe another Dino King fight from that time when he had the grenade launcher, and maybe another wacky boss like the Tarn one. So, unlike its predecessors, Robots Warfare 6 consists of only flying levels, which is cool and all, but personally I preferred having a variety of levels that allowed the game to switch it up for each level. So this game takes place in the original G1 series as we journey from Cybertron to Earth, and to spice it up, you get to choose between one of 3 characters with unique primary weapons. The first is Power Glide, who is able to shoot 2 beams at 45-degree angles with medium damage, Bumblebee, who just fires the standard shots, and Trax, who shoots balls that zigzag in a narrow path and can pass through certain barriers. Now, I won't go into each level in too much detail, but be warned that from Mission 8 onwards, the game becomes very difficult with the amount of enemies that are spawned and the amount of stuff you have to dodge, which caused a fair few heated moments while I was recording these. So let's skip that and just talk about the fun part, the bosses. With the first one being one of the Reflectors, manning a turret along a Decepticon outpost, who is able to shoot twin shots at you while bobbing up and down. Following him is the same fight, except this time it's Rumble and Frenzy, who alternate between twin and single shots, forcing you to pretty much spam your shots at them in order to break their projectiles. Third in line is Astro Train, who will fill the screen with power shots. Afterwards, you come against Ramjet, who is only affected by power shots, and he will try to ram into you whenever you land a successful hit on him. Following this, we then meet Bombshell, who lobs bombs at you that detonate into 2 when struck. I found it easiest here to use Bumblebee, as you can just sort of pop the bombs with the primary weapon and just sit in between the 2 bullets that come out of it, as otherwise you'll have to try and avoid all the attacks. Next we face Menasor, who is able to shoot at you high and low, but you must swoop down to his level regardless to shoot at his chest, and then quickly get out of there before he charges at you. Then we face a beloved icon of this channel, Dirge.
Thanks for nothing, Lawbirds!
Now, Dirge isn't planning to die today because he decides to lob 2 bombs at you, so you have to be extra careful with your aiming, otherwise you'll get a nasty surprise. After Dirge, we face Kickback, who wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't for the shield that he has blocking all your shots. This fight I found to be rather long and tedious, so make sure you're good on your dodges or else you're going to take a fair bit of damage. Then we have Laserbeak and Buzzsaw swoop in. Buzzsaw will lob bombs at you while Laserbeak shoots singular shots. But be wary though, because if you hit Laserbeak, he'll charge at you and catch you off guard. Having successfully taken down 2 birds with 1 stone, we now face Thrust, who resorts to the terrifying directional missiles that I've been warning you all about. Then we have Shrapnel, who brings a new weapon to the table, his Lightning Strike. The strike fires across the screen for a second like a railgun, which gave me a lot of trouble to be honest. Now, the last fight is quite a fun one as you face against Starscream and Bruticus, with Bruticus wielding Shockwave as a weapon. Here, Bruticus is invulnerable, so you have to aim at Starscream as he moves across the screen firing missiles at you. Although be very careful as Bruticus will continuously fire Shockwave down the centre of the screen, making manoeuvrability here very difficult. So, after defeating them all, you get to see the trio go their own separate ways for the continuation of Generation 1. A rather happy ending in comparison to some of the others in this series. Now we have finally made it to Robots Warfare X, the last game that I can find in the series. Now, unlike the other games, this one is not free, costing a little bit under $5, which for a mobile game isn't cheap, but there is one good thing about this: no ads. Which, as you have probably seen, is pretty unavoidable. In addition, it also promises cutscenes and free DLC missions, which I assume are the later levels that we'll jump into shortly. Now, this story originally confused me as I had no idea the references, until I started looking into Black Go Prime from my Transformers Go video, and saw that it is partially related to the Generation Select series, which is a video I definitely intend to make in the future. Now, you primarily play as Convobat, who is a Headmaster clone created by the Straxus twins, who is able to somehow free himself from captivity, although here the story is kinda tweaked a bit, but you'll find out later. In addition, he is able to free Ape X arms and his Transtector body, and makes a break for it, defeating countless Decepticon Headmasters, until you catch up with your clone mate, Megaligator. Megaligator wants to test your strength, and begins to shoot at you and charge at you. I was kinda hoping he would use his psychic abilities like throwing a Transtector body at you like he does in the comics, but I suppose this'll do. Megaligator then leads you to an elevator where you must fight through security to reach the surface. Unfortunately, they are pursued by the unrelenting Bruticus. In Bruticus's beast mode, he will shoot and charge at you continuously, requiring you to jump around him to avoid being hit, but be wary because he has a very large hitbox. After this, the clones then go their separate ways as we enter a flying mission, making our way through the vast marshland until we are stopped by Waspinator, who, surprise surprise, has a shield to stop your attacks. Although at least it sort of prevents him from getting blown up all the time. Continuing forth, Convobat tries to seek answers to his existence as he journeys through the snow. However, you are halted once again by the bootleg Bruticus, who is going to execute you unless you cooperate. In this form, Bruticus will send sparks across the ground, leap through the air, and try and stab you with his sword. This is a pretty fun fight, and you also have some additional health on the side if things get a bit dicey. Retrieving a tracker dropped by Bruticus, you follow its signal through a lab and gain the Sword Slice ability, and eventually reach Alpha Trion, who is being controlled by an unknown entity. Here, Alpha Trion will shoot at you before either charging or swatting at you through the air. Eventually he will switch things up though and begin to shoot sparks across the ground at you as well. Now restored, Alpha Trion guides you to a spaceship in the mountains over a lava-filled terrain. When you get there, you find that it is guarded by Pterosaur, who will fire 2 directional missiles at you. May Primus have mercy on you with this fight. Having sustained damage from the battle with Pterosaur, you make the rest of the journey on foot, having to now deal with platforms that try to tip you overboard. As it turns out, the spaceship you are going to is the Axelon, and Optimus Primal mistakes you for an enemy that is trying to take him out. In this fight, Optimus Primal will fire heavy shots at you before leaping back or making an aggressive charge towards you. Defeating Optimus Primal, he then realises that you are not a threat and agrees to help Convobat in his quest for answers. Now taking control as Optimus Primal, you fly through the air and are able to shoot twin lasers as your primary weapon and a rocket for the secondary. The rocket isn't as good as I thought initially. I mean, it does deal more damage, but it has no piercing like the regular power shot. At the end, you are confronted by Depth Charge, who fires laser bursts across the screen at you. Apparently he was confusing you for Rampage. I don't know how, but maybe the rain was blurring his vision. Optimus Primal now takes an elevator down into the base and comes face to face with Bruticus once more, who wishes to steal Primal for his master's cloning project. Bruticus is powered up this time and is able to shoot flames now from his blade and spew sparks to either side of him when he strikes the ground. Now with Bruticus destroyed, Primal is able to acquire his ground wave ability and uses it to save his friends that were trapped down here: Cheetor, Rhinox and Rat Trap. However, before they can all escape, they are stopped by a mind-controlled big convoy, who is essentially a reskin of the Alpha Trion fight, except now he has flames and power shots. Saving Big Convoy, he warns everyone to escape as he has set explosions throughout the base, forcing you to fight your way back out the elevator again. Just within reach of freedom, Primal is now faced against a fearsome foe, his mutant clone. Mutant Primal will send sparks your way and will either leap towards you or turn invisible before charging from either direction. Defeating his clone, Primal now wonders who may be behind this cloning project and decides to pay a visit to his old pal Megatron. Here, Megatron tells him that it is not him, but he may know who is behind it. In this battle, Megatron will fire a burst of fast flames towards you, and if he is hit, he will either fire his dino laser, leap at you, or commit to a charge. Megatron here is very aggressive, which makes this a very fun fight. After defeating Megatron, he is able to reveal that the one behind it all is RD-20. But who this RD-20 is, we'll have to wait and see. But first, we have to journey to the moon, and now we get to choose between either Convobat or Primal for the expedition. Approaching the moon's surface, we are met with Rampage, who is still on the run from Depth Charge. Rampage will alternate between his laser cannon and his missiles in an attempt to catch you off guard between each of his attacks. Having now made it inside the moon base, we journey deep into the lower levels to find Convobat's creator, acquiring the sword and up-slash abilities on the way. Having finally made our way to the lab, it is revealed that RD-20 is none other than Bludgeon, who has been expecting you now for quite some time. Before you can attack him though, he reveals a welcoming gift in the form of God Neptune. In this fight, God Neptune uses a variety of flame strikes, power shot combos, as well as leaping through the air to swat you down. Bludgeon then makes his escape as God Neptune is defeated and jumps onto a train to avoid Primal and Convobat. In this last level, we jump onto the moving train and fight our way forward, and when we reach the front of the train, Bludgeon acknowledges your persistence, but admits that it is time now to end you all. In this fight, Bludgeon is accompanied by a bomb turret that will occasionally throw bombs into the arena. However, to defeat Bludgeon, you must use your jump attack to knock Bludgeon out of the air, but be very careful because after he lands, he will quickly follow up with either a jump slash, a charge, or a wave of flames. I found this to be a very unique final fight that gave just enough of a challenge to be fun. And then having defeated Bludgeon, he escapes from his pretender shell and gives the two bots the slip as we reach the conclusion of this series. It does state here that there are more levels to come, but it has been a few years since its last update, so I'm not exactly holding my breath on that one. Still, a very enjoyable game though. So this marks the end of our journey through this amazing game series. It was fun being able to play through some of our favourite Transformers as if we were playing along with the actual show. Now unfortunately, as I briefly mentioned in Robot Warfare 3, some of the games are starting to slowly be removed from the Google Play Store, which is really sad to see. Despite its simplicity, they really were some fun games, and personally, I don't want to see them go. Now I know this video won't be enough for them to be brought back into the spotlight, but I thought that I would take the time to document these small series of fan games that I would have loved to have played when I was younger. So, hopefully you all really enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit rough around the edges, but I had a lot of fun making it, even when I started looking into it all the way back in early December 2022. So after this, I will shortly upload a video of every single boss fight in this series before moving on to my next big projects, which are going to be a wild ride, believe me. So I'll see you all later then. Bye bye.